Hey everyone, Michael Anthony here. Van Halen, Chickenfoot, Sammy in the Circle. But anyway, you're listening to the only podcast that is dedicated to breaking down the entire Van Halen catalog one track at a time. And the podcast will rock. Ow!
Hello, baby!
What's up, all you rockers, rockettes, and everything in between? You have stumbled upon, however you do it. You have entered a new episode of And the Podcast Will Rock. We are the show that dives into the discography and the catalog of one of the greatest rock and roll bands of all time, Van Halen. I am one of your co-hosts, Mark Kameyer. With me, as always, Corey Morissette. Corey, are the storms rolling in your way like they are here?
They are not. For the first time in forever. You've had worse weather than we've had. It's been nice and sunny and calm and loving life, sitting on the deck, drinking some Wisers and cranking some Van Halen. Life's a pretty sweet fruit.
That is a sweet fruit. I just have to say, I don't know when or how we pissed off the God of Thunder, Thor, because he has sent lightning to the same tree twice. And twice now that tree has fallen over. Or at least the branches have, but at least this time no cars were damaged or crushed, whereas the first time. But the second time the power lines were crushed. Oddly enough, we still had power is still cool, so now we just eagerly await the people at the electric company to chainsaw the branches off of the power lines so that we don't have to and potentially shock ourselves to death. But between Christy and myself, we've decided once that tree is completely gone, it's probably best to just turn the stump into a Thor altar or something to at least say, hey buddy, whatever you're trying to do, please stop, because you're doing more harm than good. And look, I've always thought myself as pro Thor, but evidently, I don't know, we've done something to aggravate him, or maybe this is just his way of being really nice and he just doesn't know his own strength. I don't know, but something has got to give.
It's your fault for buying a house that has a Bifrost portal right in your backyard, right where that tree is.
I thought it would cut down on gas costs when traveling. Man, I'm just trying to be proficient here, but enough about the weather and enough about, the inevitable storm that probably will also give us more shit to think about later. Corey, you and I are not alone. Could you do the honor of introducing our guest tonight?
It would be my pleasure. And for the first time, it's someone I actually know. Usually we bring the guests on here and they're fans of the band that have requested to be on the show, or Eric Senich from the Van Halen News Desk, or Chris L from Pot of Thunder, God bless him, was on our show and did a fantastic job. But tonight, we're bringing on an old buddy of mine from right here in Saskatchewan. Actually, if he was still living in the same town as me, he'd probably be co-hosting this show because he is a huge Van Halen fan. I've coached football with him. He's just a really good friend of mine. I know he's a big Van Halen fan. He's been dying to come on the show. But he also a little bit pissy, too, because he wants to spin really one of three songs. And he's like, I get to pick the song, right? It's like, no, we spin a wheel. Well, I get one of my songs right. Like, no, we spin the fucking wheel. But he's coming on here anyway. His name is Brett Cooper. Brett, how's it going tonight, my friend?
Very, very good. I'm under sunny sky. Well, a little bit of cloud here, too. So, Corey, I'm in the same boat as you, enjoying life, deck, cold beverage. So,
yeah. Brett lives on a beach, so don't feel too sad for him. He's rich. He's got a hot wife. He lives on a beach. He just installed a hot tub. You suck, but we're glad to have you on the show.
Well,
I can feel the brotherly love here.
That's right.
Yep. Important to spend time with you guys, but as soon as we're done, I'm going in the tub.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Brett, I got to say, we didn't talk about this before we started recording, but one of the young ladies we coached in football is on her way to Finland to represent Team Canada in tackle football, Chantel Vogel. So there's kind of a, Brett and I can puff up our chest a little bit where we coached her for a few years in minor football, and now she's going to represent Canada. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, she sent me a text here last weekend, and I almost was in tears. Yeah, just to let me know. And yeah, I was extremely proud of her. And yeah, I'm excited to see how they do in Finland. And also told her to take plenty of pictures and share because, to see someone follow her dream and be able to represent Canada on that kind of stage is just amazing.
It's very, very cool. So football is one thing Brett and I both share, and a love of good rock and roll is another. We actually went and saw Metallica together in Saskatoon, which is still one of my favorite shows. That was an amazing time. We've seen Def Leppard, a couple other bands, but one band I've never seen is a band you have seen, Brett, and that's Van Halen. Maybe tell us a little bit about your history with the band.
Well, I'm coming into them when I was really young. Like, it was actually one of the very first records I bought. I had both. I think one of the first two records I bought was Queen's record and Van Halen. And that was I think it was probably 8 or 9, and just really, really, really enjoyed it right from the get-go. And it just became, a festering love for myself. My whole teenagerhood, sitting up in the third story of our house in the cathedral area in Regina, and you could probably hear my stereo a block away. Just Van Halen as loud as I could go. My very first car, there was a 60s car, installed a tape deck so I could play Van Halen. So it's been a lifelong love for mine.
How many times have you seen him live?
Have I seen him twice? Yes, I've seen him twice. So I've seen David and I've seen Sammy. I actually, Sammy was that album, that For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge tour, was just mind blowing. To see them in Edmonton and just to see that was just crazy.
And which tour of Dave's did you see? Was that like a different kind of truth? Was it a newer?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was different kind of truth. I got gone to so many concerts lately. I can't keep track of them all. I've seen Def Leppard, I think, more than twice. I think I've seen them 3 times. Start losing track of it after a while. So,
well, I know you were in my living room when we got a text that Van Halen was going to announce another leg of their Tokyo Dome tour. And they were going to hit Regina. And you and I were both very excited. They ended up canceling that whole leg before it was even announced. I just happened to know some guys in radio that kind of leaked it to me early that this tour was coming. I remember showing you the picture in his head, Regina, and had the date, and we were very excited. It ended up not happening. So I missed my opportunity to see Van Halen, but
they did not experience Regina.
They did not.
Telling me.
They probably did in the past, but they certainly didn't on that tour. And, so doing this podcast is kind of my way of rediscovering my love of this tremendous band. Now, Brett, I alluded to off the hop, there's 3 songs that you were really kind of adamant you wanted to talk about. You begrudgingly agreed to spin the wheel and talk about whatever, but maybe tell us the 3 songs. Which 3 songs are you hoping to hit tonight?
Well, my top 3 that I have that I listen to very frequently and quite often, just keep hitting, replay is 5150. Obviously, it was just that very first album with Sammy. I love the tempo. I love what they did with that. I'm the One, originally from Van Halen 1. Love that song. Dual, guitar solo, some Eddie. Just love that song. And then obviously Pound Cake, to see that, live is, like I said, when we were talking about it before the show started, just goosebumps on my arms still.
Well, I know that's what Mark has been trying to manifest for a while now. So everybody take a shot. I said it.
Take a shot. That's true. That's what we do here on the show. We try to manifest at least a song from a particular album that we want to hear, or just the song itself. The song that I want, I have yet to reveal, but I really want it now, and it seems more applicable considering all the things happening outside of the show in our area. So that gives you a little bit of a hint as to which one I'm trying to go with. But Corey, do you have? Yeah, you might know it. I might have given it away there, but it's fine. Corey, so. Is there a song or is there a particular album? You did mention For Unlawful, and we have not. We don't have a ton that we've gone over. I think we've only done one song from that album so far. So Yes, exactly. So what about you? What say you?
Well, you know what? And because Brett's here, and because he's seen the For Unlawful tour, and I know exactly what song you're talking about, Mark, and it would be very apropos tonight for what's happening to our friends south of the border. I'm all down for that. But before we do any of that, Mark, we should maybe talk about last week's song and the poll that we ran.
Oh, of course. We cannot skip this. Thank you.
So last week, our song was From Afar from Van Halen 3. And of course, we asked the listenership, how would you vote on From Afar? What dreams are made of, or this dream is over? And the results are in, and it's 66.7%. This dream is over. 33.3% saying what dreams are made of. So 33.3% of the people dug that song, and we both kind of said, geez, that seems high, doesn't it?
It's too high. This percentage is way too high. Now I get it. I know what you're thinking out there, people listening. They're like, well, 66%, you won by a land. No, that's not a landslide victory. Not at all. It's almost a 50-50 shot. I mean, just barely not there at least from my perspective. 33%. I mean, come on. What are you guys playing at? I no longer think the Cult of Mariano is at play here. I think there's something else happening. What is happening? Corey, what's happening? Explain this to me.
I don't know what's happening. What do you say we go to the comments we got on that poll and maybe shed some light on the subject? What do you say?
Okay.
First up, we have Gene Hickey, who said, it was a thumbs down for me for pretty much the same reasons as everyone else. It just doesn't come together as a song. Hopefully the wheel gives us a better Van Halen 3 song next time. I'm growing a guilty conscience shitting on Gary songs all the time. And I said, amen, brother, because ditto for me. I really like Gary Sharon, and I know there's good stuff on that album. It just wasn't that song.
Everyone just thinks that I'm just anti Gary Sharon. I'm not. I just don't think what we've gotten so far from this album, that this is his strongest work. And I stand by that. What we've heard so far is just not strong. I'm sorry, Gary.
Yep. Next up, we have Risky Georgeness, one of the co-hosts of the Metal Gods podcast, who unfortunately is no more. They've stopped podcasting. So all our best to George and Tom on that show. And we're going to have George on our show here coming up pretty quick. I'm really looking forward to that. All he tweeted was a gift of Judge Judy saying it's over. So there you go. Our good friends absolutely. Our good friends at Sean Geek and the Fast Fret podcast said, ugh, just ugh, feels unfinished. If a producer came in to take what worked and made them work this out, I feel there might have been the beginnings of a song here, but there's not enough here. Good comments.
You're right, Sean. You're right.
Absolutely. Charles Johnson tweeted, as noted as EVH was for hoarding tunes, I think they screwed Sharon over by not bringing in more classic sounding music to Van Halen 3. What do you think of that comment, Mark?
I mean, I agree to an extent, but at the same time, it just kind of, I don't know, because I've been kind of lukewarm on the music itself. And then Gary's addedness to it, or lack thereof, if you want to call it that, just doesn't make it sound any better. In fact, it just kind of makes the song sound worse, because even if this is true, I don't know who that looks poorly on. If that looks poorly on the band as a whole, or on Eddie, or on Gary not being more of like, no, let me do my thing. I don't want to do what you guys want me to do. Let me do my thing. Let this be a full collaboration. I don't know. But I don't think Charles is wrong here.
Coop, I'll send it to you now. Do you think what you remember of Van Halen 3, does that sound like classic Van Halen, or did they kind of screw Gary Sharon over by not bringing in more classic sounding tunes?
I think he might have gotten a little bit of the short end of the stick on that album. Obviously, I think they were trying to do something a little bit different, but that's the thing. Like, I remember reading reviews every time a new album came out, whether it was OU 812 after 5150, or, Balance after the previous album. And you always hear them saying, well, that song sounds an awful lot like X. So they were saying, well, are they running out of material? I think Gary got a little bit of the short end of the stick. I think they tried to do some different stuff, different sound, something different with him. And maybe some of the lyrics were just a little bit on the weak side.
Well, and I seem to remember Eddie talking about Van Halen 3 being his first like sober album and trying different things. So definitely maybe not that classic Eddie Van Halen sound. Let's go back to the tweets. Brian Peterkin, my Canadian brother from another mother in Ottawa, said, another song I'm very unfamiliar with. We'll have to give it a listen before submitting my vote. Crossing over, never knew it existed. So I'm not sure how he voted. He never elaborated on that, but thanks for chiming in, Brian. Next up, we have Michael Green, noted John Mariano hater, says, well, all three of you, I can't believe I'm saying this, had some really valid points today. The song doesn't gel together. John saying that there is the magic, John saying that here is the music, Gary go write some lyrics and sing the song is spot on. Having said that, I still like the song, love the guitar, like the lyrics, enjoy Gary's voice. It's what dreams are made of for me. You are all right that not everyone likes the same music. Van Halen 3 fan for life. John Marioni, change your damn shorts. And then there's a gif of Philip Seymour Hoffman from Along Came Polly saying, dude, I just sharted.
He, this Michael Green fella really, it's tough to get a read on this guy. Yeah. He's got it in for John, and he likes to assume that I cry like a baby whenever we roll a Gary Sharon tune. And that's just not the like Michael. I'm speaking directly to you now. I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. What's wrong, bro? Like why you come for us like this? Like if you come for John, that's one thing because he's asking for it.
As far as I know, Michael likes me, so I got no problem with him. Thanks for listening, Michael. Keep chiming in. Yeah, that's fantastic.
I got no problem with Michael. I'm just curious as to his thinking, his mentality as to where he thinks my mentality is when we go through these songs. I think I'm pretty plain when I discuss it, but I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens tonight, and we'll see what happens on the next poll.
That's right. Next up, we have from You're All Doomed, which is a Friday the 13th podcast. Mark, I know you're going to like that one. Big horror movie buff. Yeah, it's a great show. Absolutely check out You're All Doomed. I love that pod. They said, for me, From Afar encapsulates what's wrong with the Van Halen 3 album. A few moments of, hey, that's awesome. But too many moments of, ugh, what were they thinking? Very, very fair, I think, in that comment. Absolutely.
I agree with it. I agree.
Go, perfect. We have our official friend of the show, Tar Mombrewster, who said, and I quote, I want this whole album to sound better. The guitars sound thin and there's no decent bass frequencies to be found, even when Eddie's playing a 6-string bass. I like what Eddie's playing here, except for the first half of the solo, which I also agreed with and I pointed out on the show. That bridge, that lyric, and the harmonies behind it stayed in my head all day. Imagine this song, same lyric, same music, minus the first half of the solo, sung by Dave on Fair Warning. And I would say if it had the same production as Dave, as Fair Warning, I'm on board. I think it would be a lot better. What do you think, Mark?
I want to agree with it, but I'm having a real hard time picturing it because I don't know. I was just really, really bummed out on this song, just every step of the way. So you could be right. Both of you could be right about this, and that'll be a fun dream. But I don't know. I just can't picture it. So for me, I guess I have to say agree to disagree. I don't know. I don't even think good production could have saved this song. I don't know though.
There you have it. Thanks for chiming in, Tom. And finally, Jonathan P. Todd tweeted, I think Ed could have farted into the microphone and maybe turned out a better tune. But then I remember Strung Out from Balance. I guess you can't fly as high and as far as Van Halen did without some turbulence. And I know we weren't fans fired. We weren't real fans of Strung Out either. One of their worst instrumentals. But Jonathan came out guns blazing on that one.
You got to say your piece sometimes, and that is his piece, and we appreciate your piece. That's right.
Absolutely. I said it. Yep. And that was From Afar from last week's show. But what do you say, Mark? It's time to spin the wheel and come up with this week's track.
We need a track from the Fuck album.
There you go, Brett. Cross your fingers. Here we go.
Here we go.
Up with it's almost I'm the one, but it's not gonna be. It's gonna be Mean Street from Fair Warning. You were one away from I'm the One from Van Halen 1. Brett almost called a shot. Instead, we're getting a Dave tune from Fair Warning. Man, I'm not mad about this though. What do you think, Mark?
No, not at all. But that is funny because one of our last guests called his shot. It's the first time he's ever called it, and we almost had a repeat of that. That's pretty impressive. But again, like you, not mad at the choice.
What do you think, Brett? This is the first track off of Fair Warning, released in 1981. Are you upset about this one? You're getting a pretty good Dave tune.
It was right smack dab between Girls Gone Bad and I'm the One, so that was in a good little pocket there. So
yeah, there you go. Of course, this album, again, produced by Ted Templeman, released April 29th, 1981. Everybody loves Fair Warning. I know we've done dirty movies off this one. This is our second Fair Warning track. The big hit on here, obviously, was Unchained. But Mean Street is one of those classic Dave songs that diehard Van Halen fans are going to tell you, this is maybe top 10 Van Halen.
There are a lot of people who tune into the show who I recall a lot of them very much looking forward to us doing Mean Streets. This is the one. This is the one they've been waiting for. So you guys, we've done it. So hopefully we give you an episode you can celebrate.
Now, Brett, do you have any recollections of Mean Street from way back in 1981?
yeah, I do actually. I like the way this album started and ended because Mean Street is a good song. And I like the because it was the number one, like it was the very first track on the album. But even One Foot Out the Door was a great way to end the album. So I quite a fan of Fair Warning.
Fair Warning is, yeah, it's a fantastic album. And Unchained is one of my favorite Dave tracks of all time. And hear about it later. One of my favorite deep cuts from Van Halen. What do you say, boys? Should we spin some Mean Street here tonight?
Let's get mean on these streets.
All right, here we go. Now that is just a classic Eddie Van Halen intro. You got the finger tapping, right? The nice slow interlude with the finger tapping, and then just as a non-guitar player, and I know Brett doesn't play guitar either, but Mark does. We're sitting there, and I know I'm thinking, how the fuck is he doing this?
It's aptly named even from the start because he's taking his fingers for a walk on the fretboard on these mean streets. So that is, I mean, yeah. If you're going to get a rip-roaring Eddie intro, not even a solo, just an intro to the song, which he's very good about doing, this is certainly one to make a statement. Just a series of finger tapping. And then, I'm a fan of the dive bomb, and he gave us just a little bit of a taste of that dive bomb fade out into the sunset, as it were, until we all come back and it just clashes in rock fashion. Ooh, I'm so excited.
Brett, what did you think of that intro?
It's one of the meaner, we'll call it meaner ones. It had meat to it. And I like, because it does, like Mark said, he does so much there with the finger tapping and that, and then it's almost like that groovy rhythm to start into the song, because it kind of leads into dun 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 dun, and I like how it led into the song. Very
much. Mean Street, I think it's considered a deep cut, but for Van Halen fans, it's not. This is easily one of the more popular album cuts. And I believe they played this in 2012, and Wolfie actually got to do some guitar tooling with his dad on this track. So I just got to picture them on stage having fun, blasting this one out. But we're coming up to the meat of the song here. This is where it gets really good.
On my block, and I see the same old faces, and I hear that same old talk, and I'm searching for the latest thing I break in this routine. I'm talking some new kicks, ones like you ain't never seen. This is home. This is Mean Street.
All right, a different harmony from early Van Halen, right? We're used to getting that Michael Anthony high harmony. They're nice and low in the register here on the This Is Home, This Is Mean Street. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, he's not. Michael's not going for like the upper howl, so to speak. I know when I say howl, I'm not talking about how Dave does his typical howl. I'm just talking about when Michael reaches for that high note. Whenever you guys hear the high note in the harmonies, it's Michael. Let no one say anything different. It's Michael doing it. Friend of the show, Michael. But I'm just gonna keep saying it until it actually happens. But yeah, and speaking of Michael, he is also kind of taking his bass for a little bit of a walk there at the beginning. He's doubling what Eddie is doing on guitar, and that's, I mean, it provides that particular riff some extra thickness, if you will. Mm-hmm. It's meatier. It's exactly what Brett said. It's meaty. There's a lot of meat going on right now. Like there's a lot of meat on these mean streets, yeah, that's what I got so far.
I know Brett used the term dark. It's kind of nasty too, isn't it? With with just kind of the bass line and the way the song kicks off. It's got a great little groove to it.
Well, actually, this song is a perfect example of me of like it's showcasing everything, because like everybody always thinks like or Eddie's always been voted at the top of his game and guitar and what he all of the stuff that he he invented or brought forward, just because obviously he played with guitar so much. But Alex, I put him up almost against any drummer ever, like from his double bass to I read something somewhere at one time, because everybody always talks about Eddie and his brown sound, and I remember reading an article or something, and Eddie said he coined that because of the snare sound of Alex was where he got that brown sound comment from. But this one is just one of those songs like you can hear Alex, and it's just the drum underneath this is just I love the groove of it.
And we talked about that snare sound. It's iconic, especially to drummers in rock and roll, right? Everybody can guess. Once you hear that snare, it's an Eddie Van Halen, or Alex Van Halen.
It's Alex. Oh yeah. And it just some of his off tempo stuff. Like it's just amazing to hear him play it. I call it, when I hear his bass quite often on some of his songs, like, trying to think of it, Hot for Teacher. It's almost kind of a galloping double bass. Mm-hmm. It's not a total, it's not speed. It's kind of the galloping, but it's just, his offbeat stuff is amazing.
When the brown sound comes around, go change your pants, but continue rocking out.
And we shall.
Sick of these four walls. Now what you think is nothing might be something after all. Now you know this ain't no through street and this dead ahead. The poor folks play for keeps down here. They're the living dead. Come on down to Main Street. They're dancing now.
Lyrically, where do you think Dave's going with this? Obviously, he grew up in kind of an opulent home. His dad was a doctor, and growing up in Newcastle, Indiana, going to LA and Pasadena, and kind of dealing with. Does that kind of maybe inspire his lyrics here?
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was of two minds here. One, my initial thought reading this and listening to Dave and knowing what we know about his backstory. Go, what you know about mean streets, Dave? but at the same time, it's like, okay, forget that. Let's just focus on what the song is. Lyrically, I'm gonna say it. I'm giving Dave full props, because he is 100% telling a story with this particular song lyrically. It's kind of the way I felt about Running with the Devil. He's giving you an idea of what the song is about lyrically. He's painting you a word portrait, which is what that's the intention. And this was painting a word portrait. Whether or not Dave in his real life knew what it meant to be on quote unquote mean streets, being the son of a doctor and, all that jazz, irrelevant. He is still, he's got the mindset down, and he's got the lyrics down the way he is envisioning it. And I've got a clear picture in my brain thanks to it. So I think this is one of his better ones lyrically. So there you go. I'm not shitting on Dave's lyrics this week.
Kind of reminiscent of Chinatown a little bit, which of course came out way, in 2012. But
that one was less clear as far as like the portrait he's painting, because I'm still not for sure about exactly what that's about. But that's whatever.
Coop, what do you think about David Lee Roth as a lyricist? Where does he rank for you?
He's up there. Like when I was listening to you guys and I'm watching the lyrics go by and on the screen, and this one almost seems to me, and again, I might be getting a little bit too into it right off the hop here, but it was almost like maybe it's just talking about the band, like what they've had to put up with. Like it's, hunted into the hunter, only thing they've known. I think it just might be just a little bit of the band and what they have to deal with. Like they come off a highly successful Van Halen 1, Van Halen 2. How do you follow up two very, very successful albums? I don't know.
Well, in Women and Children, everything kind of waned a little bit. I know. When you look at album sales, Women and Children still did very well, especially at the time. What did it hit in these states? 3 times platinum, so 3 million units, 2 times platinum in Canada. But then Fair Warning dropped even further, 2 times platinum and only platinum in Canada with 100,000 units sold. So album sales kind of drooping a little bit for the band, even though I think as a live act, their repertoire was certainly going up. So kind of an interesting spot in the David Lee Roth era for Van Halen. Sort of really quick on the mix, like on last week's episode we're like, where's the bass? It was even Eddie playing bass and you couldn't hear it. Right here you got Michael Anthony front and center with a little dude, and Alex is on the hi-hat just fucking killing it, and Eddie's doing his thing. Like the band's cooking on this track.
It's a song that cooks. This is a well, I'll save that comment for later, but I'm right there with you. It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny that once you get Michael in the mix, he's in the mix, and just let him do his thing. No disrespect to Eddie, but we have gone over a few tracks where it's been like, is there no bass in this song? Or like, is Eddie? I know Eddie's playing bass on this track, but what exactly is he doing? Doesn't sound like he's doing anything. Or maybe the producer just said, yeah, I'm just going to turn that knob down. Yeah, we don't have to worry about that. It's all good. I don't know. But yeah, everybody's front and center, everybody's doing their job, but it's a cohesive unit.
Yep. Brett, we'll get your comments on Michael Anthony. And he was doing a lot of great bass work, especially on the little chorus there. Had a little kind of almost like a bass solo for a little bit there, where he was able to kind of show his chops. And I always appreciate it when Michael Anthony is just able to kind of play because he's a fantastic bass player.
He was an unsung hero of the band. Like seeing him live when he's wheeling around the Jack Daniels and running all over the stage to, like you guys had spoken about before, when you hear that high octave, it's Michael, because he's the only one that could really reach that. I don't think he got as much credit as he could have for the bass work he did, because you're always overshadowed by Eddie, and even when they weren't maybe talking necessarily or all friendly and buddy. I think there might have been the odd comment from Eddie and Alex to Michael's playing, but he to me was an unsung hero of the band.
Mm-hmm. I agree 100%.
Agreed.
All right, your thoughts on the guitar solo there, Mark?
He's not going above and beyond, because he doesn't have to. What he is doing, and say it with me, folks, this is, you can also drink to this because I'll say it ad nauseum every time when it occurs. He's playing the solo to fit the song. He's not playing the solo to overshadow Michael, to overshadow Alex, or overshadow David Lee Roth, if even a thing was possible. He is simply playing a solo that fits the riff, fits the entire just the musicality of what they're bringing to the table. Is he showing off a bit? Well, sure, but that's what a solo is. You get to show off. That's why it's called a solo. It's just you up there doing your thing. This is not one that is over the top. This is one that fits. You know, he could go over the top, but he's choosing to just give you just a little bit more flavor, if you will. What do you think, Corey?
It's Eddie Van Halen. I know Brett's got thoughts on Eddie Van Halen. You always considered him kind of an average guitar player, didn't you?
I just read Guitar World's thing on Twitter, or they had it posted on Twitter where they had voting, and the final was Eddie over Dave or Brian May. Was just up on Twitter here. I was just reading it before I joined you, and it was, yeah, there is only one Eddie. There will be only one Eddie. I was in mourning for a few days a couple years ago. Even my kids messaged me to see if I was okay, because I have been a Eddie fan forever. I've got a huge framed picture of him and Eddie memorabilia in my office. I'm getting a friend of mine to make a stained glass Frankenstrat to hang in my office. I think I probably explained my love for him there.
So I'm going to go out on a limb and say you probably enjoyed that solo as much as Mark and I did.
Oh, yes, there's some times where he can get a little overdone, but yeah, more often than not, he put the right solo in the right song, whether it's this one or, Off for Teacher or I'll Wait, or, the list just goes on and on. I like what he does. Like he wasn't afraid to try something a little bit different. He knew he had the speed. He knew he had different sounds that he played, and he loved to play around while he played. And this is an example. It fit the song, like Mark said.
Mm-hmm.
My friend, it ain't once upon a time. It's all over, but the shouting. I come to take what's mine. We're searching for the latest thing. A break in this routine. Talking some new kicks, ones like you ain't never seen. This is home. This is Mean Street. It's our home. Only one I know. This is home. See, a gun is real easy. This is Mean Street. In this desperate part of town. This is home. Turns you from hunted into hunter. Yeah. This is Mean Street. You go and hunt somebody down. Wait a minute now. Somebody said, fair warning, Lord, strike that poor boy down.
All right, that's one of the most famous lyrics in Van Halen history. Lord, strike that poor boy down. Everybody just bust out smiling once Dave sang that. That was amazing.
That's great. I love the day crescendo of this little segment here, where it just gets real low. Everyone's like, it's almost like a call and response sort of chant, because you got the background vocals, the boys doing This Is Home, This Is Mean Streets, and then you got Dave front and center continuing the story that he's telling, but you still have that through line of the background vocals going like, this is home, this is Mean Streets, and then it's just gonna like build and build and build until he finally, Lord, strike that poor boy down. That's good songwriting. That's good. It's nice to have dynamics in your rock song that separates the men from the boys, the children from the adults, I think.
I tell you, Brett, I know you wanted a particular 3 songs, but I can't imagine you're too upset that we rolled Mean Street here tonight.
Actually, like I said, there's very little that, I might not be up as much on a different kind of Truth and Van Halen 3 because I don't play the albums from start to finish, but any of the other albums I probably have listened to them 100 times over, if not more. This is actually my favorite part of the song. Like, I know the intro to the song is iconic as well, but like Mark said, the harmony, a little bit of storytelling, a little bit of that bass, a little bit of Eddie just, quietly, just kind of strumming away. And just that Alex and that beat. This actually for me is my favorite part of the song because it brings into that crescendo at the end.
Good Lord, strike that poor boy down. Here we go.
Poor boy. If you had that cranked up in your car, Corey, cruising, I bet you anybody that you drove by would know who was playing without even the lyrics.
Guaranteed. And that's the sign of a great band. Like you mentioned Queen earlier. When you're listening to a Queen song, whether it be Brian May's guitar or Freddie Mercury's vocal, Van Halen is the exact same way. Mark Meyer, that's Mean Street, released as a single in 1981 with Push Comes the Shove as the B-side. Fair warning, did not sell overly well, but I think amongst diehard Van Halen fans, this is one of their top albums. So what did you think of this track?
Well, if we're just going to go ahead and get right down to it. Well, that's what we do. And yeah, did I show my hand early? Of course I did. But why wouldn't I? Because I was feeling it. There's a reason why this song sticks out amongst the diehard fans. Is because this song deserves to be, I think, in the discussion for if you're going to do a list of top Van Halen tracks. I don't know if it belongs in the top 10, but I would put it in my personal top 10 for sure. But it definitely belongs in the discussion for one of their top tier songs. This is just good. This is one of those prime examples that we talk about before. You get every single thing, every bit of Van Halen that makes them great. You get it. You get in the song, every bit of it. It's a feel good rock tune. The riffs are cooking. The rhythm section is on fire. Everyone's doing their part. Eddie is, while he's not going over the top with his solo, as I mentioned, he is still playing a solo to fit the song. He's giving you that Eddie flair. It's just like Running with the Devil. The solo he does in that song is not the most outstanding solo, but it's still great. And it's still Eddie. And, if he can do a solo that you might think is just okay, that's still a whole lot better than most people's solos when they really, really want to try and be transcendental, if you will. But that's just the testament to the kind of musician that Eddie is. This is absolutely what dreams are made of. I really think people need to talk more in more of a mainstream sort of audience. They need to talk about this song being one of the top tier Van Halen songs. At least I think they do. That's how I felt. Brett, you're our guest. How do you feel about Mean Streets? Was it too mean and the dream just died and it's over? Or do you want to continue walking those streets and find out if it's what dreams are made of?
I'm going to go with you and your thumbs up, Mark. For me, there's always 2 or 3 songs in every album that I gravitate to. And when we spoke about it a year earlier, Mean Street, Unchained, One Foot Out the Door, those are my top 3 songs from the album. Like I said, this one kind of showcased everybody. Michael, Dave in the storytelling, Alex in his drums, Eddie, and you had spoken about the solo. I was reading something here this past week where Eddie was voted the number 5 rhythm guitar player of all time, and everybody was slaughtering it and they said, well, wait, quite often guitarists are known as either great rhythm guitarists or great lead guitarists. And you don't have to say anything about Eddie and his lead guitar, but they actually said how much of a claiming for Eddie it was, because not often do you have strength in both. And to be of all time the number 5, this song, when he's just sitting back there, just strumming along, and just everybody's doing their thing, it was a perfect example for me. So for me, like you said, I give it 2 thumbs up. It's one of the best songs on the album for me.
All right. Well, you fucked up the format of the show. I got to play the clip before you start talking about it, jackass. So I'm going to play it now. You're never coming back, even though I agreed with every fucking word you said, especially about the rhythm guitar.
I'm a rookie. I'm a rookie, man.
We didn't warn him.
I told him before we started recording.
I also didn't know you guys could swear, so
of course
I'm very much a rookie. Yeah. And then I say for unlawful carnal knowledge, and you both guys say, well, it's the Fuck album.
Yeah, we need an album. Fuck album. Song on Fuck, yeah. But even though Brett totally fucked up my show, he's been ruining my life for 10 years now. I agree with almost every word he said. I thought that was an interesting article too about rhythm guitar versus lead. He played a little rhythm guitar on this, and listen to his rhythm on a song like Pound Cake. That tells you all you need to know about Eddie Van Halen as a rhythm guitar player. He absolutely belongs on that list. But I'm still going to vote, and I'm still going to play the goddamn clip, and it's. 3 for 3, and how can you vote against Mean Street? If you're a fan of Van Halen or a fan of music, a fan of rock music, there's no way this song isn't 100% on the poll. Cult of Mariano be damned. This is a classic Van Halen track. And actually, I was doing some research as we're listening to it, an older Van Halen track. It was actually recorded as a demo called Voodoo Queen and had a completely different set of lyrics. You can find that in its original format on the band's Warner Brothers demo. But it was reworked as Mean Street for Fair Warning. It was played over 200 times in concert. I believe the number is 251. Only 5 times on the A Different Kind of Truth tour. But man, it is actually on the Tokyo Dome Live album. So fans should actually check that out too. But I'm kind of shocked that in 2012, 2013, they didn't play this more.
That is kind of shocking, but what's not shocking is that they made the right call changing the format from its original entity, because
you're not into Voodoo Queen?
I mean, well, I didn't say I wasn't, but as for a Van Halen song, probably not. I think Mean Streets works better.
There you have it. I think David certainly grew as a lyricist from those early days, even going into Van Halen 1 to where he was in Fair Warning, which... their album sales were declining, but as a band, arguably they were getting better.
I 100% agree with that. And and I'll give it to Dave. He was very, very capable of writing lyrics that were not nonsensical. But then, sometimes he'd fall back into that trap, but that's okay because, he's Diamond Dave. What do you expect? This is not me hating on Diamond Dave and his ability to write lyrics or sing. Like, obviously I'm a fan. So I just feel like I have to clear that up every single week, but so let it be known, but there it is.
And I think it quite often happens when you have a band that's trying to grow, like some of the biggest bands, when they try something different, they quite often end up, the general public, well, that's not the sound. That's not what that's not what I remember from their first album. And sometimes they end up suffering a little bit in sales or whatever. But from a true diehard fan, like you guys said, like this is some of their best stuff. Because they're diving a little deeper into lyrics. They're trying some different things. They're playing like they always love to do, just tinkering with different stuff and seeing what it works. And yeah, kudos to them.
Oh, and this is such a great album. Like if you haven't spun Fair Warning in a while, do so. because you go from this into 1 foot out the door, which is one of the best 1-2 punches I remember from the Van Halen era. Like, that's such a fantastic song. Then you get into songs like Center Swing, and then Hear About It Later, which is probably my favorite track off that album, on a album of standouts. That's the one that stands out to me. And we're not even talking about the single that everybody remembers from this album, which is Unchained. So an absolutely fantastic, even one of the better instrumentals, Sunday Afternoon in the Park, is off of this album. So I'm really hoping that the polls this week are like 98% what dreams are made of. It's got to be, right? Because Mean Street is an absolute bona fide Van Halen fucking classic.
Oh, my sweet summer child. You do not underestimate the power of the Cult of Mariano's what do we call it? Their contrarianism, whatever the word is.
Is that a word?
Yeah, there it is. It is now.
Brett's educated. He could let us know. What's that word?
What is that word, Brett?
I mispronounced Smith. Come on, guys.
And I
well, we can't help you for that.
I'm very glad he's here for the show here tonight. I'm very glad we rolled an absolute Van Halen classic for you here tonight, Brett. What do you say? As long as 5150 pound cake and I'm the one on the wheel, will you come back at a later date and maybe try and spin one of those?
This has been awesome. I want to thank you guys for letting me join. I've been looking forward to this for a long time, and hopefully you'll have me back. I will wait next time and give you my vote after so that I don't fuck up your show for you. But no, it's been awesome. You guys have been great, and just doing something I love to do, and it's just talk about Van Halen.
It's one of the finer things that we get to enjoy in this podcasting space. That's why we do it. We're fans. We're not experts. We're not musical historians. I feel I have to clear that up every week as well. We're just fans who enjoy listening to awesome music and talking about it. And that's what we're here to do. Brett, again, thank you for being our guest this week. And if do you have anything that you want to plug? Do you have your social medias in case the people want to find more of you?
No, actually, I'm a pretty laid back kind of guy. I don't have a whole bunch of social media. I'm just a diehard fan that just loves music. Always have, always will. It's my avenue. It's my stress relief. You know, if I'm driving, golfing, whatever, you won't find music very far away from me. And my playlist is predominantly VH. It's a huge part of my playlist, whatever playlist I've got going on. So no, just really thank you guys again. It's been awesome.
Well, there you go. Corey, where can the good people find you?
They can find me at CD Morissette on Twitter. They can find the show at Podcast Will Rock and www.podcastwillrock.com. And you can find us as part of the Deep Dive Podcasting Network. And we have a bit of news when it comes to Deep Dive Podcasting Network. I mentioned earlier, our friends at Metal Gods Podcasting, the Judas Priest show, have decided to call it a day and go their separate ways. So we wish them all the best. And I mentioned that Risky Georgians is going to be on our show very, very soon. I'm very much looking forward to that. But fear not, because Tom, who is on that show, actually started a new show with somebody that we know very well, Mark. He was on our show. Greg DiPasquale was on the infamous How Many Say I episode, has started a podcast with Tom called So Far, So Pod, So What? And it's all things Megadeth. And I know you're a big metal guy, Mark, so I'm sure you're looking forward to checking that one out.
It'll be an interesting one. I'm sure they're going to give me a lot of info that I didn't know about Megadeth. They're one of the big four of the thrash, the thrash movement. But I'll admit my knowledge in a lot of Megadeth is limited. If I'm going to listen to one of the big four, it usually tends to be Metallica, and then in the recent years, some Anthrax. But you know, you never discount Megadeth or Slayer. It's the big four. So there you are. But I am looking forward to hearing that, having Greg on our show, getting a feel of how that dude is, how passionate he is about talking about certain things involving music. I'd be very, very curious to hear this show. So looking forward to that. You guys should check that out. And you can find me at Mark the Bat on Twitter and Instagram. Come at me and yell at me or say nice things to me. I accept all of that. And that's And that's it. That's the show. That's what we're doing. Once again, thank you to Brett for joining us. We'll hopefully have you back for an even more killer track. But it's not up to us. It's always the spin of the wheel. Yes, the wheel is real. No matter how many times we tweet it out, people still think it's false. It's real. We only go by what the wheel tells us. We spin it and we talk about the song. That is how the show works. So thank you for joining us. If this is your first time, hit that subscribe button. Give us a rating. It would be really great. It will help us out. It'll help us expand to the masses. More people need to hear about the things we have to say because we're talking about a band that everybody seems to enjoy. Van Halen is universal. That's why we're here. That's why you're listening. It is the way of the world. That's the show. We are, and the podcast will rock, and we will rock you later.